that's the first thing that ever motivated me to actually make that commitment to get into professional wrestling was, back in the beginning when I saw Lita and Trish main event for Raw, and I'm like, whoa, I want to keep seeing all those changes happen all the way,
It's so good to see you. Thank you so much for being with us on this one. So this is my second interview with Ivelisse. You can check out the first one right up there. It was a few years ago. So the last time we saw Ivelisse was in February. She worked a match on AEW Dark. Haven't really seen or heard a lot from her since then. So I'm so honored to have her on the show. I'm honored that you're here with us for this conversation. And right before we get into the meat of this one, I gotta give a big thank you to Tiege Hanley. I've been talking about them on the channel for over a year now, and it's for two reasons. Number one, it works. I'm 38 years old, and I get this all the time. Chris, you don't look a day over 37 and a half. Thank you. Number two, it's so easy. It's great skincare, and everything you need comes in this box right here. That right there sums it up. Uncomplicated skincare for men. And how much less complicated could it get than giving you everything that you need delivered in this box right here? Let me open this up and show you what's inside of here. This right here, this is everything you need. And Tiege Hanley's not saying it, but I will. This is like the fountain of youth. You'll start with the wash, daily face wash, once in the morning, once at night. I love the way that this smells too. Twice a week, you will scrub it up with the scrub. It says right there, 2 times per week, facial exfoliating scrub. And I love how it pulls out the extra dirt and grime and everything else that's on your face there. And it leaves your face feeling like all tingly. In fact, the 2 days a week that I do this, I look forward to. I'm like, it's a scrub day today? It is scrub day today. And then you've got your moisturizer. AM moisturizer, you'll use that in the morning after you wash, after you scrub on the days that you scrub. Then you got the PM, use that at night right before you go to bed. And that's it. I told you it was uncomplicated. And the best thing about it is Tiege Hanley cuts out the middleman so they can sell directly to you at a super affordable price. And because they're sponsoring today's video, they are hooking you up. Click that link down below, and not only are they gonna give you the best price possible, they're also gonna give you a free gift with your first box, and it starts at just 25 bucks. If you don't already do some sort of skincare, get started, seriously. I wish I'd started this years ago, but the 37-and-a-half-year-old looking me is glad I started when I did. Now let's get to the chat with Ivelisse.
Well, here we go. How are you?
I'm all right. How are you?
I'm doing great. I like that you matched your hoodie to the color of your hair.
Oh yeah, red, everything red.
Is your entire closet just full of red clothes?
No, but it's a lot. It's very predominant.
When was the last time you had a hair color that was not red, by the way?
Probably 2 years ago was when I had it brown, and then even before that I was brown for a little bit, and before that was around another 2-3-ish years with the red. Yeah.
But you're sold on red. It's gonna be red for a long time here. Yeah.
No, it was first blonde because I'm technically strawberry blonde. That's my color that I was born with, which is rare for a Puerto Rican. But anyway, and then it was blonde, and then I wanted to change it to brown when I was in WWE. They didn't want me. They said that I would look too Hispanic if I dyed my hair brown. The first time I ever heard that. But after I was released, then I was like, all right, here I go. And then brown. And I actually do like the color brown a lot, but my whole life I always felt like, man, I want to go red. So once I got past the courage to go brown, then I passed on to the ultimate courage of going red, and now I'm trying to keep it red as long as I possibly can.
Well, no complaints from any of your fans. I can assure you of that. How have these last few months been for you? We haven't heard from you in a while.
Yeah, I've kind of purposely done it that way, even though before I never really did a lot of interviews, because I'm so more invested in just the pure performance aspect of pro wrestling. That for me, these past months have been really difficult to process emotionally, mentally, in every way, shape, or form. More importantly, because of what happened a couple of months ago, with the release and whatever, everything surrounding it, and even like before, just the combination of a lot of things, even like before being signed with AEW, like I had a fire where I lost everything that I worked for against all odds, and like and then it was right before, actually during I think it was actually it was right before the Dynamite match. And then after that happened, it continued into the tournament, the tag team tournament, and all that was happening. It was just all of it. And then it was just like nonstop, everything kind of accumulating, dealing with everything, on how that affected my household, how that affected having my puppy that I had just gotten, everything going like with the stress of like dealing with everything that was going on inside AEW with, we already know the person I have already mentioned this before, just everything all together. It was like a big culmination of that once the release happened. And then of course the cherry on top, all the madness from online Twitter cesspool. So mentally and emotionally and spiritually, any kind of illy department of my existence, it was a massive putting everything possible to process it in a healthy way, to still manage to keep moving forward and get back everything I've lost, and just everything. So that's the main reason why I felt compelled to stay away more so than ever from interviews, to kind of maintain my mental stamina enough to keep pushing forward.
Well, and all of this is compounded by the time that we're living in right now.
And that, yeah.
Right.
That too.
The last, 20-ish months with COVID-19 has changed everything.
Yep. Yes.
So how have you been processing everything that's been going on?
It's been pretty crazy. But I myself, I don't even know how, like, I've done it, but I mean, it's something that I've been doing since I was a teenager, when I went off on my own and, trying to move to the States with nothing, start from scratch. Like that's something that I've been doing for my whole life, like learning to start from literally ground zero. I've done many times. So I guess that helps me kind of cope, or kind of second nature type, at least to a degree. But it's been incredibly difficult. But thankfully, it's kind of like why I always say, whenever anyone has asked me how I'm doing or anything like that, just riding them waves, riding them waves till they're smooth sailing. There will be more waves eventually, but just riding the waves until it's just that much easier.
Well, I imagine wrestling for most of your life has been the escape from all of this.
Exactly.
And there hasn't been a ton of wrestling over the last year or so.
Yeah. Yeah. And but again, in that part, because the pandemic, right, it keeps you away from doing what you love. But thankfully, even though with everything that's been going on, all the negativity and the pandemic as well, thank God I've still had enough bookings and enough like things going on that have kept me afloat. Thankfully. And man, and I lost my train of thought.
Just riding them waves. That's what you're doing.
Riding them waves. Riding them waves.
It just seems like, I guess what's happened recently, but throughout a lot of your career, it just seems like you're kind of misunderstood. Do you also feel like people don't understand who you are at your core?
Yeah, like, and I know, and yes, definitely. The only thing is that, again, because I'm the type of person that I come from nothing, and literally, like, I'm a female. I have so many like components against me, like in my journey towards success, in my journey towards achieving things and stuff like that, that it like, it doesn't even give me the time to even be able to explain myself, to be even better, like to be understood better or anything like that. Just because like I'm in hustle mode. My entire life I've been in hustle mode. So I don't even have a chance to even like, try to fix a misunderstanding, if some, things like that. And it's just like, that's a number one. And number two, again, all the factors, like, again, I'm a female. There's still a lot of progress to happen in the world in general when it comes to sexism. That's like the biggest number one, I feel, one of the biggest number one issues that is very far behind. And being a female in a predominantly male dominated business, like, it's still, I feel there's still so much to go. So I feel like that's a number one big component towards that misunderstanding, at least in the major part of it, which is the pro wrestling. Number two, being a minority. There's a lot of things about who I am and my identity that a lot of people won't understand. And that is kind of what helps me a little bit not take it so personally, or not take it so like where it affects me so much that I can't cope or something, or something like that. But I just keep pushing to fight for all that I stand for.
Yeah. Do you feel like for you it's constantly an uphill battle because of some of the things that you listed, because you're a woman in this industry, because you're a minority being from Puerto Rico? Do you feel like you're constantly fighting this battle?
Yeah. Yeah. And again, even that itself is misunderstood as well. In many ways, like, it could be perceived in many different ways, like that I'm a problem, or that I this or that or whatever, which I don't even have the time to even try to fix that perception or misunderstanding, whoever or however it is, because I gotta keep hustling for my life, for my things, for my people, for my, like, now my dog is like my son. So like, or at least that's how I feel it. Like, getting rid of him is not an option for me whatsoever. I mean, to each their own how they view, their pets or whatever. But to me, it's like, once I have him, he's like my baby, he's my family. So he's also a big reason now for me to keep moving forward. And, like, when this massively negative thing happened, I'm going to admit that I would say that it's, like, throughout my career, my life, I would say it was the one with the most impact on me on a mental, emotional sense. Like, literally, I felt like my entire life was a waste. Like, my entire career was a waste, pretty much. At that point, that's, of course, you're affected. That was my mentality. But what helped me pull myself out of that negative state of mind was realizing that even if that was the reality, it would only be in a material sense. It will only be in a wealth sense. And like, if I have gotten this far and I, because of whatever reasons or all the reasons, whatever that would be, that at this point I have not reached the wealth, success, etc., that I feel that I deserve, that's okay. Like, I accepted that I am, accepting that reality and be like, that's okay with me, because even though, yes, it sucks and that's what I want, and, it's a big part of motivation, et cetera, but at least, like, to me, like, well, I may not get that, but at the end of the day, I still have all this wealth of knowledge in here. So even if I don't get that wealth that I feel I deserve and that I've worked for, et cetera, blah, 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 then at least I'll do something valuable in a different way. And that's where I feel, okay, so then I'll just try to do everything I humanly possibly can to just keep contributing towards women's wrestling with what I have here that no amount of money in the planet can buy. So, like, and at least then I feel like my life wasn't for anything. You know what I mean? Like, or my career, everything that because I've given my entire life to my career. Like, that's all I've ever invested all my energy and everything to. So that way I don't feel like it was all for nothing. You know what I mean? So that's what I'm pouring my heart out now to, just in every way. I did before, but now even more, because I feel like that will be my legacy. That will be what was worth it, you know?
Well, I mean, you've been doing this now coming up on 18 years, which is incredible.
Yeah.
Congratulations. You spent more than half your life doing what you're doing, which is amazing.
Yeah.
How much have you seen it shift? How much has women's wrestling changed over these last 18 years?
Well, I mean, of course, you know, it's inevitable to say that there's been a lot of progression. There's been a lot of progression. The only thing is, like I mentioned before, that's the only part that's still very far behind. Like the treatment towards female veterans, which are such an important part towards propelling all those changes, because technically the changes towards the women's wrestling is like giving more time, giving more like opportunities, and like giving more chances to like shine and this and that. So the exposure part, is where the changes are happening.
Right.
But there's only so much that will do if the other changes all behind, like everything behind that, like in a not politics sense, but like everything behind that, like how you treat females, like how you treat the female veterans that have put in a lot of work as well, like how you value them, how you perceive them, how you perceive the women in general, like the system you're creating for them in order for in order for when they do actually go out there and these chances that you're giving them, they can knock it out of the park, etc. So like things like that, that's what's missing. Like the part where they're getting more opportunities, getting more time to shine, getting more exposure, that's there, and that's awesome. That's fantastic. Now, the most important part is the structure behind it in order for it to propel and actually, keep moving forward the most impactful way possible. And that, again, that falls on that sexism part, where a massive part of that is not giving the right, I would say, credit or the right value, I would say, I guess, towards the women who have gone to bat already, tried, true, and tested, and have that female perspective for these things is what's missing. So, and you are only gonna get it if you put the female that have gone through it, that have experienced the female world in pro wrestling in every sense. And I mean in like the interactions between girls, the system and how girls have, like just how they are, and like the common problems in the female world, or like or who's who in wrestling, because like 99.9% of the time, if you have a female vet who's been in indies forever, then that means they've literally quite worked almost everybody in the scene, so they know who's who, or they know how to bring out the best in who, or etc. Like all those things that you see in the male department is what's missing in the female side.
So if I'm understanding this, you're saying it's great that women are main eventing WrestleMania. It's great that women are getting more time on TV, but behind the scenes, there's some changes that still need to be made.
Yes, definitely.
Where do you think those changes start then? And
again, that's what I said, like giving the right, first of all, the credit, and number two, the value and when I mean value is like recognizing that value, like of all the things I had just mentioned. Like when you have a veteran, again, tried, true, and tested, that has experience already being a female, that female perspective is something that no man in the business will be able to understand, comprehend. And again, and I mean like in every element of like who's who, not just in the ring, outside of the ring, like, just have experienced even like just all those elements that you see so easily in the male department, where they see the obvious value in the male veterans, obviously. So it's the same thing. It's just females. So giving that that value to the female veterans, especially when there's very few left. Like that will help create an incredible foundation and structure to be able to propel those, to propel like the current talent and future talent, so that when they do have these when these things are happening, like, you know, the opportunities happening, like whether it be a pay-per-view or this or that, then that will be presented the most impactful way possible, because the veterans will be able to help guide the other ones.
Well, what do you think about like what Mickie James is doing as the executive producer in Empower? Is that a step in the right direction?
Yes,
Okay.
that's one. Yes, which is why I was very excited when I saw, you know, finally a female veteran who has experience, who has seen it, who has a tried and true tested warrior that knows the inner workings of the entire world of women's wrestling. Then it's like awesome. That is definitely a step into the right direction. You know that at some, you know that politics will always try to find their way in anything, right? But at the very least, when it's a female veteran to that caliber, you know what I mean? Like, it's still that much of a bigger component than politics. I feel like it will definitely override that enough to where that progression that needs to happen will keep moving forward.
Well, as you keep talking about female veterans, it's so interesting because I had a conversation with Mickie James about this recently.
Yeah.
And there's real ageism in wrestling when you're talking about men and women. A man whose age begins with a 4, and we could think about a ton of them who are, you know, every different organization across the world. They're seen as veterans. And if there's a woman like Mickie James, for example, whose age begins with a 4, she's just seen as old. And it's just so funny how that's perceived.
That's ridiculous. It's insane, especially when that's the thing. She doesn't even look her age. She looks amazing.
She looks great, and she can work better than anybody.
Yes, that's another thing. That's even crazy. That's even crazier. But yeah, that's also too. That's really sad because that, like, when you have these incredibly important components, like a female veteran like that, like to the caliber, female veterans in general, like, when you again, and this is male perspective, in a male perspective, and also kind of sexism as well, because you see the value of this female veteran, right? And this is, again, in a general sense, if you see the value of this female in general sense, there's no way, shape, or form that you can be like, oh, she's just another number, she's just another one of the girls, like, you know, and then you just treat her like that. That's insane. You have any idea what a missed opportunity, like, what a missed opportunity for both, because again, female veterans are such an important tool. That's the thing, such an important tool. Like, even if you don't plan on like making her your biggest, you know, your champion and your biggest star, etc., blah blah blah, at least recognize the value that she could have towards your division in every sense. Like, first of all, the knowledge she already has of again, all the females that she's already probably wrestled, how to she'll obviously know how what are the weaknesses or strengths of those particular people she's wrestled. She'll know how to best, like, you know, bring the best out of it, or just all those things that a male vet would do in their world. It's like, it's very sad that you would not recognize that just because she's a female. You know what I mean? So that's, I feel that's a big major component that there needs progression towards. And but again, like, that's why when Mickie James was announced for that, and it's like, I'm like, at least there's something happening. So I was like, okay, that is a good relief. And I really hope that it keeps going, and that, dear God, that politics doesn't ruin it along the way at some point, which just never ceases to amaze how it just always finds a way. Again, in my almost 2 decades of wrestling, whether it be a small company or a major company, it's always like, even with Lucha Underground, like, at first it was like, oh, it's gonna be so different and this and that, and then somehow along the way, like 4th season in, it's like, oh, look at all these things that already happened. all due to politics, all due to like everyone always wants to get a piece of the pie. Something starts getting like attention and this and that, and everyone wants to get a piece of pie. Everyone gets in, and then something that was meant to be revolutionary, it just gets torn apart by everyone trying to pull in different directions for their own agenda, etc. And it just sucks. But hopefully that doesn't happen.
Well, for you personally, as you're putting everything behind you, what direction are you pointing yourself in now for the next 6 months or 6 years from now?
Technically, I kind of didn't really ever visualize myself past 40 wrestling, but that's just me. There's nothing like, that's just me though, you know. Who knows? Maybe I will be. I can't predict the future, but at least.
But 40 would be 25 years of wrestling. Amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. I never visualized that for myself, but who knows? But so I would say that I'm going to turn 33 this month. So I guess I would say roughly estimate of 7 years. And like I said, like I'd mentioned before, again, at this point, I'm done. Like, I'm not done, but like, if I don't get in those what's left of what I feel is left of my career, if I don't achieve that wealth that that success, that wealth that I feel I deserve, then again, I'm in that mode of like, regardless, I want to try to give every ounce of or every bit of me towards creating those changes that I hope to see in women's wrestling, in every shape, in every way. And I'll be doing that through the opportunities that I get in these, like, thank God, regardless of all the negativity and all the sabotage, all the blah, blah, blah. I'm Shrine Champion. I plan to give as much as I can, continue, because I've technically been there for so long, continue to give in that way as much as possible with the time I have left. Also with Ladies Night Out, like all these all-women wrestling companies, now with SWE, every chance, every opportunity that comes where I can make an impact in any way, whether it be helping out whoever. Like, for an example, like this weekend, I was my first title defense with SWE, with Maddie Brankowski. Like, been with her, if she like to pick my brain or give her as much advice as I possibly can in and out of the ring, and like things like that, every way, shape, or form, to completely and utterly give myself entirely to just help. Then once I'm done, that's my legacy. And I'll be able to feel like, okay, that's my legacy. I can look back and that and be happy,
Yeah, it seems like there's a lot of frustration about what happened earlier this year with AEW. And I'm curious, do you put some of the blame on that on yourself? Do you look back and go, man, if I had done this differently, I might still be there?
No, I don't have that perspective. Like, to me, in my mind, I'm actually like, I don't like the blame of who is like irrelevant. Like, to me, in my mind, because it's business, like the way I always view things is like, okay, communication is the solution to everything or anything. Like, I feel like that was the most disappointing part of all, because I'm the type that arguments can happen, anything can happen, and at the end of the day, I know in my mind that it's just a matter of a misunderstanding from two individuals, or three or four or whatever. It's just a misunderstanding, and the only way to move forward from that, from all parties involved, is to just talk. And if you don't talk, then nothing gets resolved. Nothing, So that to me was the most disappointing part of it, that I didn't get to, because again, in any business, like any business turns out, like if you and me are doing business right now, and something just kind of went south, then eventually we have to sit down, talk, try to figure out where we went wrong, and then find a way to mutually agree something that's comfortable for both of us to keep moving forward. That's just business 101, mutually respectful, like, but that was just the most disappointing part, that didn't happen. And there was a lot of reasons why that didn't happen or whatever. Hopefully it gets to happen eventually. But to me, that's how I view it. It's just a matter of resolving the misunderstanding somehow, some way.
To finally have a chance to sit down and have a dialogue about it.
Yeah. And not with TR because that's not the, I wasn't employed by TR. I was employed by, AEW. Like, sure. That's where where the business is at. That's where the commitment, the most important aspect of that mutual commitment.
Yeah. Is this a personal issue with Thunder Rosa, or is this just a business disagreement?
It's a culmination of a lot of things from her part. In the past, it all started in the past in Lucha Underground. This literally the exact same thing that happened in the match happened in Lucha Underground. I thought that was learned because when we encountered again in the Indies, because in Lucha Underground it was Cobra Moon, in the Indies it was like as herself. That in that match she didn't do any of that. So I was like, okay. So I thought in my mind, okay, well, there were a lot of other things outside of Ellie.
It's a cameo from your dog?
Sorry, yeah. He's like, come on. He's like wondering what's happened to me. Sorry. But
come
like
on
sorry. Outside of that, because I'm the type that when it comes to anything personal outside, you just let it go. But once you're in the ring, you're in the ring. All of that needs to completely and utterly disappear. And you just focus and do what works for the match, period. No ifs and buts.
Yeah.
But outside of that, after that Lucha Underground incident in the ring, outside of that, throughout the years, I heard a lot of things. And that's the thing. People think that because I stay quiet and I don't care about drama and I don't care about negativity, I just keep working. People think that I don't hear things, that nothing comes to me, that nothing but like I heard a lot of things, but in my mind, it's like, well, we're not working, so I don't need to worry about it. Ignore. I ignore negativity. But then that match happened outside and I didn't feel like it happened again, like the same thing in Lucha Underground in the match. I was like, okay, so maybe she did learn like from, and it didn't, and it's just like an outside the ring thing. So I was like, okay, cool, whatever. But then AEW comes and never in my wildest dreams would I ever think that would happen. And it did. But I think that, I don't know why it didn't occur to me that maybe because she was champ, maybe that gave her a little bit more liquid courage, as you would say, for like to go back to that. But that, I mean, I know I don't like to like, but like at the end of the day, it's still pro wrestling. You're still wrestling a veteran, number 3, and you still like it. That's the only difference. But like that, that doesn't mean you get to be unprofessional just because you have a championship. Like it just, I don't know. That was just like. But,
I think there's a lot of people that look at that match, and I'm sure you've heard it. There's a lot of people that think that you were unprofessional, no selling, some of the stuff that she was doing. I mean, how did you react when you saw that?
Of course, because, and it's just Twitter again, of course. And Twitter for a very long time, and this is not even new. It's just, they took advantage of that vulnerable moment to just all these years of pent up, gunning for me in Twitter for like, but again, that's the thing, I ignore. And I feel like maybe that may be something that contributes to like growing people's misconceptions or whatever. But like I said, I don't even have time because I'm always hustling. I don't even have time to even like, try to explain to you why you're wrong about your perception of me, wrong, or whatever. So yeah, that it was kind of crazy. That was like very crazy how they turned that into me, the bad guy, or me, the unprofessional. Like anyone with a brain looking at the situation that wouldn't allow that to coerce their intelligence, if they would have seen it for themselves, they would say, well, first of all, you don't disrespect a vet by doing any of those things, number 1. And number 2, I was the signed talent at that time. And you're coming from an outside company. That's number 2. Number 3, in those Aries. And number 3, in the match, again, anyone who's seen and knows what they're watching, they could see the things for themselves, like how it starts, how it almost kind of like the whole thing that happened yesterday in the match with Charlotte and Nia.
You're talking
Like,
about a Monday Night Raw, yeah.
Yeah, like I'm watching, I was like, what's going on? So I watched it as neutral as possible, knowing what I know about pro wrestling. So I could kind of have an idea of what may most probably have happened. I'm not going to comment on what or whatever, because that's not the point of why I'm trying to like grab that. But like, my point is that as a professional or as a knowledgeable person of pro wrestling, I can look at that in a neutral way and have an understanding of what may have probably happened more accurately. Yeah, that's kind of why it was so baffling to me. But again, it's Twitter, and I knew that a massive chunk of that group that was doing that online was just simply taking advantage of a vulnerable moment.
So what we're seeing in that match is a bunch of frustration, is what you're saying. This is the buildup of a lot of frustration.
That precise moment that people keep like fixating on was like the culmination of like my brain stopped working for like 3 seconds because I couldn't believe what was happening. It was literally like I did that and I looked at my partner because I couldn't believe what was actually happening. And at that precise moment, I was even this is something actually like, I was even talking about this recently, like leading up to that match, I was so exhausted, like mentally, because again, like the whole thing about like the fire, like for the tournament, like one of the matches, I think it was the first, like I had, because of the fire, like my gear was ruined. So I had forgotten the gear, so that when I got there, I had to actually buy with the very little money I had left, because the insurance like was screwing me over because it was a pandemic and everything was a mess. Like I had to buy gear out of nowhere to wear for the tournament. Like I was like I had lost everything, and I did that. And then again, like I had said, it was just a nonstop from losing everything, from going from hotel to hotel to hotel to hotel with a puppy, with this and that, and like just driving back and forth and like finding a way, like and it was like a constant like week. So then that night was it. That was like, okay, whoo, finally I get to like just kind of mentally breathe and process. And then out of nowhere, they're like, hey, so tomorrow you're wrestling so-and-so. I was like, oh man, I don't know if I have the mental stamina to go through that right now. But I was like, okay, all right. Whatever left you got in the tank, you got to do this. You got to pull yourself together and give the people what they want. Especially, that was a big motivator for me to pull whatever I had out and like get this done. Because when they announced it, everyone went crazy. Everyone was excited. So I was like, all right, push everything personal aside, even with this person, and just execute as much as you can. And when the day came, she didn't even want to do anything. Like I was the one who was pushing for this match to be amazing, like how everyone was wanting and everyone was expecting, everything like that. Of course, I don't mention that, of course, because I don't like to add to negativity, but people feel it's okay to like go crazy and try to make me the bad guy. But even something like that started with the disrespect. You know, basically saying, oh yeah, I don't want to do anything. Right? What? No, we're gonna have this match be awesome. And there's just other things, like more and more and more. But in my mind, all that I had in my mind is like, it's the last thing. Come on, let's get it done. Just get it done. Knock it out of the park. Any way possible. And even in the beginning of the match, when because it was the thing about the slap, right? I guess that was like the thing that set the tone for everybody. Like, oh my God, something's going on here. That we went over that a million thousand times. He knew. It was part of the match, right? Then, so after I do it, after she forgets what comes after, and so I had no choice but to nudge her face. Then that's when I felt the shoot stuff and the whole, I've trained MMA as well, so you can't prove that on me. Number one, again, it's disrespectful because I'm a vet. And number two, I'm the last one you want to try to do that with. Please, come on. But I just didn't want to allow that negative or unprofessional side. All I was focusing on is to not allow that to for me to be pulled into that. And I felt like she tried and tried and tried and tried and tried. And then I feel like I did a pretty okay job in not allowing her to pull me into that unprofessionalism or negativity or whatever. Because I did not retaliate. More importantly, I was already signed. So why would I even do that? But that's the crazy part on how I did everything possible to not be pulled into that negative way. But somehow I was made into the bad guy. So there's really nothing that can be done about that. That is pretty much ancient history now. But I feel like that would be a definite, total different issue aside from the bigger issue for me, which is the misunderstanding in terms of clearly you weren't understanding what type of tool or asset I was to you as a female veteran. And not just me, but the other, because not long after I was let go, I see that happen with another veteran that was there. Like with another girl. I don't know, they didn't make that big of a deal with that match, but it happened again shortly after I left. And even like while I was there, she pulled another thing after the match with Diamante, where she hurt her jaw. Nobody talked about that. Nobody made a big deal about that. Nobody, nothing. So it's like, it's clearly a problem beyond just that one person.
Do you think that there's like something you need to do to like repair your reputation? Because people online definitely feel a certain way about you.
Yeah. And honestly, as always, I feel like the only way that I could handle that, kind of like how I've always handled it, but I've tried to be very careful from when that happened. Like I said, I didn't do many interviews, number one, for myself because of the healing process that I was doing for myself from the trauma. But also to not give them ammunition. But I feel like it's almost, there will all, like, no matter what I do or don't do, whoever wants to do that is going to do that regardless. So I can't control them. I can only control me. So that's why in my mind I'm not going to act like they don't exist. So I will be careful a little bit to a degree to not give them ammunition. But at the same time, like not allow them to impact what my goals are, what I stand for, what my purpose is, and you know, just who I am in general and what I want to contribute to women's wrestling. And that's pretty much what I've been doing and what I'm doing and what I plan to keep doing, to continue and utterly be myself and continue to stand for what I've always stood for, to keep fighting for it, regardless of that.
So what's next? I mean, where do you point? What direction do you point yourself in now?
Well, obviously, I just got to keep making as much. I have the indies. That's the floor that I've had when I'm not in major companies. I'm in the indies, so that's pretty much like how it is for anybody. Just continue to do as much as possible in the indies. Like the biggest component to why I haven't been in major company like long enough to create meaningful impact again is because I refuse to succumb to politics and all the negativity that comes with it. So I'm okay just doing that in the indies and as much as possible. That way I don't get driven insane while I'm over here, trying to give myself to a good cause, and that is to do whatever possible to improve anything and everything regarding women's wrestling.
Well, if you said, you didn't ever envision yourself wrestling after 40, what does life look like after that? Do you think about life after wrestling?
Like, my body does not like it right now.
Well, yeah, wrestling is not a natural thing for any human to be doing.
Exactly. And yeah, my body has complained quite a few times, and it still is. But I've been entirely committed to everything surrounding this. So I've been very committed to try to stay as healthy as possible as well, and even including like I've adjusted my wrestling style as well for that as well, and stuff like that. So like yeah, I'm just.
Well, so what's after wrestling? Have you thought about that?
I mean, I have, but remember, like, it's changed so many times throughout my life, because again, I hit rock bottom and lose everything. I've lost it a bunch of times and have to restart over again from ground up so many times that I've had to adjust that as well, like in a realistic sense. I mean,
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm still in that process of creating that realistic future of what now. So I'm still coming out of that bottom, trying to create that reality future there, of what is outside of wrestling. But it definitely still, like, I'm never gonna like completely and utterly walk away and be away. Like, I can't, like, this is like, I can't say it's all I know, but it's mostly what I know. So
well, it's what you're great at.
Thank you. But like, I will still, even after I stop wrestling or whatever, I still would want to continue helping female or women's wrestling somehow, some way, whether it be training, whether it be mentoring, whether it be anything, even if I don't get anything out of it, whatever. Like, I know for a fact that that's always part of it.
Yeah.
And yeah, so thank God, I have a foundation now, with being the face of a couple of women's companies, independent wrestling, but still, it's still impactful, it's still influential, and I just want to keep just contributing in every way, towards the female talent, and also, with performances and things like that, just in every way.
What do you think's been the biggest thing that's helped you get through what you've been going through this year?
I would say a lot. Honestly, sometimes I struggle to answer that question for myself. I'm not gonna lie, because again, I'm a human being like everybody else. But like I said, a big part of that falls under just wanting to see those changes for women's wrestling. Like, that's the first thing that ever motivated me to actually make that commitment to get into professional wrestling, was, back in the beginning when I saw Lita and Trish main event for Raw, and I'm like, whoa, I want to keep seeing all those changes happen all the way, to like where it's not equal in the like just equal in the sense of like the respect that they get for the work they put in. That's the equal part that I say, to get the credibility and respect that comes with the work you put in, regardless of gender. So that is a massive motivator for me. And in a personal sense, I don't know, because like you said earlier, wrestling has been as much of an escape for me. Sometimes I realize that and then I forget, but like, it kind of was a little bit of a
it almost sounds like wrestling is both the cause and also escape from all of your problems.
Yeah.
Like, it causes a lot of issues, and then it's also the escape from those issues.
But it's also it's an escape from my personal
sure world. It's like this double-edged sword.
Yeah. But which is why sometimes or I mean, sometimes would be like at that time where it felt completely hopeless, because if I can't go either way for an escape, then that's when like I felt I was going to lose my mind. But thank God too, a big factor as well, which I would say would be the third major factor too, is throughout all my life, I've tried to educate myself a lot in psychology and things that are like self-help stuff for managing traumatic experiences, etc., and stuff like that. And of course, absolutely no one is perfect, of course. But I've tried as much as possible to, with the best intent for myself and for others, to use as many psychology techniques as possible for myself, for my own sanity, for my own, pushing forward, for everything, and sometimes even to try to help others as well. But there's a lot about me as a person that nobody knows.
Yeah, I feel like I don't know if we really know you, the person. Yeah. We know you, the character.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, are you kayfabing us all the time?
No. I feel like that's a major thing, or I feel like that's a major reason too why people take the easy route to just think, oh, that's Ivelisse, the character. Like 99.9% of the time, what I present to the world is Ivelisse La Sicaria. It's not me, Ivelisse Vélez. I guess the most human part that I've shown the world lately is Aries, my dog. That's been the first step towards showing who Ivelisse is really as a person, and it was really hard. And that's actually something I worked very hard at when I was in AEW, which to open up myself like that as well. That was the first time ever in my career and in my life that I felt that I was actually beginning to open up as a person, was in AEW. And that's why I guess was another reason why it hurt bad, because that was another part as well, because I trusted myself enough to open up, but then that it almost felt like all for nothing as well. A lot of it felt all for at that moment, a lot felt all for nothing, but all I had to do was apply everything that I've studied and everything. It was hard, but to apply all the psychological techniques and everything to change my perspective. Once that perspective changes, then it's just a lot easier to move forward in a better light.
Well, it sounds like you're in a better headspace now than you might have been 3 or 4 months ago.
Yes.
Which is exactly why we're having this conversation right now.
Yes.
Do you have what goals do you have for yourself as we close out the year?
Hopefully I can add a little bit more to that gold mine collection I got. That's in a career sense, I would say, because I have no idea what's gonna happen in a major company career sense. So that's why I just got to keep focusing with the cards I have dealt with, what I've done my whole life. So the cards I have dealt right now is in indie. So I'm just gonna again continue to try and strive to keep pushing forward with that is wherever the limits are. And hopefully next year there'll be better payoffs.
Well, you've been in major companies, like you mentioned. Do you think the door is still open at any of these?
I mean, I guess, in pro wrestling, you can never say never. I mean, it's kind of like when I hear someone say they're retiring, I'm like, no, you're not.
No one retires in wrestling.
Exactly. So that's why I guess you can never say never in wrestling. But my 1000% focus outside of pro wrestling is to stay as healthy as I possibly can, mentally and emotionally, so that whenever something does come along, I am ready for it.
What is one thing about Ivelisse, the person, not the wrestler, that we don't know?
I don't know. I'm trying to.
You're like, there's so many. Which one should I tell them?
There's too much to pull from. So maybe be specific. then that could maybe
Well,
help.
I mean, I've met you many times. I think you're a lot sweeter in person than anyone gives you credit for.
Exactly.
You
I do
are.
hear that a lot.
You are. And I feel like, maybe there's like this pent up frustration, like you're fighting this battle all the time. But when you strip that all away, you are very nice and sweet.
Yeah. Well, there you go. There's one.
Or maybe unclench your fists sometimes,
No, but like a lot of that since that's what you touched on, I'll touch on that on
Sure.
my feedback from that. All of it has to do with a person's demeanor towards me. You've always been nice, respectful. I've never felt anything negative from you whatsoever. So that automatically, like, what reason do I have to be like, negative or anything towards you? I don't. But obviously, if someone in front of me has the audacity to belittle me or disrespect me or whatever, then obviously they're not going to see the sweet side no more. So that's just it. It's like, there's really no more to it. And not just me, but like, I'm very like protective. I mean, obviously, if I'm very self-protective, then obviously I will be very protective of people I care about. So I also do that with people I care about as well. If someone does something like bad to someone I care about, I'm going to defend them as well. So it's like, there's no more to those two components about me. That's it.
Well, I've put it out into the world so that everybody knows. Ivelisse
Thank you
is
very
sweet
much.
and nice.
Appreciate that.
Is there anything else that you want to add in?
Well, oh yeah,
Maybe
Shine. This
we've
month.
mentioned it a little bit, but yeah, please.
Yeah, this month. Then this September. Actually, it's not even.
It'll be
yet.
September when this comes out.
When this comes out, okay. So September. Not only is it my birthday month.
Happy early birthday.
But it's also it's also the month that I turn 18 years in pro wrestling, and September 19th is Shine Shine 68 I believe, and I will be wrestling Allison Kay in a steel cage match and for the Shine Women's Championship. And I think that October is when I'm not sure if it'll be the last shot, but it'll be another shot, maybe the last shot, but another shot to maybe possibly add to the collection, to the gold mine. I'm calling it the gold mine. So we'll see what happens. Let's see how I can close 2021 despite all the sabotage, etc., and things like that. I hope that this inspires other people as well to know that even when you're having a lot of adversity to push through, and you can still finish strong, regardless of whatever person, whether it be internal or external, to be able to push through.
Well, you are not the things that happen to you. I think that's so important for everybody to realize. You are not the things that happen to you, and you can control only how you want to react to the things that are happening around you. You have no control over what actually happens.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
I end every interview talking about gratitude. You see it behind me here. Be great, be grateful. What are 3 things in your life that you're grateful for right now?
And this is something that I've been saying and repeating almost every day since like throughout the entire year. I'm grateful for life, number 1. And there's also a very massive reason why I say that. So I feel like I cannot stress enough of the importance of that first one that people take for granted so much. So number 1, grateful for life, because a lot of people get that taken away from them, and a lot of people think there's no solution to their problems, and they think that taking that will just end it or end the pain. So number 1, grateful for life. I'm grateful for health. Number 2, without health, I can't do anything, and that's mental or physical. Without that, we can't do anything. And number 3, I'm gonna say, and these are things that are outside of me. Now looking outside of me, I'm very grateful for the support that I didn't even know existed that has been coming out throughout all this madness that's happened. The support that has come out from other people, like, you know, whether it be promoters or other wrestlers or anything like that, that I didn't even know existed. I'm incredibly grateful for that. And like, just even you, like, you know, mentioning, hey, that's a lie. She's actually awesome. She's never given me any grief or anything like that. Like, just that was so helpful. And I'm really grateful for that. For those,
I really think that there's a lot of things about you that might be misunderstood, you know, and everybody has their own opinions of everybody, but I just think there's a lot of things that might be misunderstood.
Yeah. And I feel like regardless, like, of anything, like, even if I perceive something from somebody else, like, that does not give me a right to disrespect them, to put them down, etc. Like, that's just your opinion. That's just your perspective. There's 1,000 different perspectives given whatever information they have, etc. And even if so, let's say if your perception of whatever you're seeing from somebody or from a situation, maybe it is correct, still, you have no right to demean, disrespect, etc., or try to, you know, go on a rampage on trying to tear their name down, etc., or whatever, or ridicule them or whatever, anything like that. There's no right. You have no right to do that to absolutely anybody, much less people you don't know in full situations of, or anything like that. You just do not have the right to do any of that. Is also my opinion as well. And also, maybe it was a misunderstanding of perceptions of multiple people. So like, that doesn't help. You know, when people go on a rampage, it doesn't help the situation or the people involved to be able to explore how that was just a misunderstanding. It just probably, they did perceive things incorrectly. It ended up in a problem, a negative thing that happened, but it still was a misunderstanding. The intent may not have even been there. So it just sucks. I'm a big believer of it's just a misunderstanding. Even people who have disrespected me in a way, like in my face, yelling things. Like, I have gone through like crazy things, and even that, I'll be like, I'm still open to hearing if that person, like, what caused this, to find the solution to the problem. What caused that? Why did that happen? Find a way to talk. The whole point and goal is to find a way to move away from that, to make sure it doesn't happen again. Period. That's it. Whatever it is, to find a way to make sure it doesn't happen again. Period. That's it.
Well, look, I'm looking forward to what's next for you. All this is behind us. So I'm excited to see what's next for you.
Yes, I'm excited too.
Thank you so much for this.
Thank you, Chris.